Hello and welcome to the short tutorial about YAPAT. When you enter the page, the URL, you will find an interface that looks very similar to this one here. It is not called Welcome Hannes, of course. It will be your name. But in principle, we have one column here for the representation of the audio and one column for the annotation of the audio. So let's start with the representation of the audio. We work on 3-second long snippets, and these 3-second long snippets are presented as a spectrogram to you, where you can find species or other sound sources, and you can also play the audio. What is also possible, because the audio might be very noisy, you can mask it by just clicking into the spectrogram and select either a frequency range or a time range or a time frequency range. So for example, if I select this time frequency range here, the audio also gets re-synthesized, and it's very different. So you can like demask the audio. Also, we have this toggle button here between raw audio and separated audio. And if I choose the separated audio file, you will see the output of a model we use that separates sound sources. So we have always 8 channels. So we have 8 channels plus the raw audio, all concatenated here, and you can either listen to all of them or you find something interesting, and then you can also select it as I just did. So for example, right now, okay, I think it gets clear. And for example, if you now think, okay, it's interesting, this one here is what I need, you can just crop that and filter the audio out. Okay, I think that was it for the audio representation column. Let's move to the audio annotation column where you will annotate the audio. Okay, let's move to the annotation column. First in the annotation column is the sampling strategy, where you select the model strategy that is used to select the samples for you. Pre-selected is the validate, and validate means we created a model that was searching in the whole dataset for files that very likely contain species, and these files are shown to you. So please use the validation for, in the beginning, at least 2 hours. First, what you do for annotation is here in the filter by row, you select the kind of animals you're interested in. Let's say you're an ape expert, then you check the apes. You get here a very long list of apes. So what you do, basically, you check all apes, all species that are present in the current sample. And because it's a bit messy to scroll here, it's also possible to search, that's not in the list, to search for anything. Let's say I know it was the Cinna momeus, then I could just type here Cinna, I check that, I go back, and now if you would scroll, you will find that this is checked. So that is how you go through all the species present here. What might help you is our model suggestions that we plot here right below. So which says that in this specific sample here, for example, this specific species is present. That is right now, it's just an artificial number. The species is not present, as you've already heard. But in the real setup, you will get, like, of course, real numbers. So what would be possible is I am searching for exactly the species. I check it. I I go back and search for the next one. What is also possible is I want to look for a species, let's say AAA, that is not there already. So what I can do is I can create a species right here, add new species, and please there do it in the same format as all the other species. So here maybe aves, and then let's call it AAA and BBB, and I can add it. It will get added to this list, and it's also already checked. There is also one other button, which means exclude from validation. If you feel like, for example, here that this species is always on top of that, but it's never present, it might be good to exclude this species, because our model then might choose always this species, but maybe it's wrong in all the cases. So what you could do is you could, in the exclude for a species, go to the specific species that you want to exclude, and you can click it. It will also be shown here. You can exclude as many species as you want. You can include them if you uncheck that. And if you have multiple and you want to include all of them again, you just click this X. As soon as you have checked all boxes here in any way you like for annotation, you just click the submit button and the next file will be presented to you here. Of course, in between, while you click here the boxes, you can re-listen to the audio, you can re-filter, just what I've explained before. In case you are not sure what is inside the audio, so let's say you're not sure if there is anything present or not, you can also skip the file. You can just click the skip button. Please, if you're sure that there is nothing inside, please do not click the skip button. Please just do not check any box and click the submit button, because we will use all samples that you submitted for further computation. And also, if you know that, for example, this species is present, but you're not sure if this species is present, please still submit it. Okay, that was it for the validation. Start with the validation, do that for as long as it gives you reasonable samples. And when you feel like, okay, it does not give me any more reasonable samples, because maybe it just gives me noisy samples or something, you can start refining. Refining means selecting samples that are of high information for our model to create better estimations for the samples. So after you validate it, if it comes to that point, like I said, if you just want to validate the whole time, please do that. It's our best method. The refine method works in the same way. You have already selected the aves. You check the boxes as you have before. You can add a new species as before, and you submit as before. There is one difference, and that is the refine only. For example, if you just detected a new species and you want to refine for just one species, then you can here in the refine only box select the species. Or of course, you can also select two or multiple species. It works in the same way as I've explained before for the exclusion for the validation. You can uncheck it, and also here, of course, you submit or skip. After a while, when you feel like refining doesn't help anymore, please maybe if you stay for refine, don't stay there longer than half an hour in one run. You can go to the discover, and discovering means you get samples presented that are very likely to include a new species that is not found already. So let's say you go to discover and you might find this species, which I just created. So you check it and you submit, and you can continue discover for a while. And if you find a new species, which will not happen on every sample, but which might maybe happen on every 20 or 30 samples, you can also go back and refine the specific species that you just found. The last method here, called random, is exactly what it says. So it means the samples are randomly selected, and in principle, you should avoid using random sampling because it's just selecting random samples. But if it happens that, for example, you have a very large processing time, so for example, when I switch here, you see this loading circle, and if that might take for you like forever, so maybe a minute or so, which should not happen, but let's say it happens, then you can use the random sampling strategy, because that is very fast, and you will just see more samples in an unstructured way. You can use all elements also as before. And that was it for the user interface. If there are any questions, just feel free to write me an email or to reach out via Teams.